MAHARISHI Ayurveda is the science of life and health, an ancient Vedic approach, a holistic approach to longevity. An Ayurvedic doctor can take your pulse and recommend herbs, lifestyle changes, meditation, massage, detox programs, and more to bring your life back into balance. In this talk, we'll look at basic concepts of Ayurveda, daily cycles and influences from the time of day to the time of year, plus your body type, diet, and basic terminology, such as what is shirodhara, abhyanga, swedna, dosha, garshana, panchakharma, sound therapy, Ghandarva veda, prakruti, ojas, agni, vata, pitta, kapha, tridosha, vastu. Many terms will be explained. You can learn to take your own pulse too. Everyone who attends this will be eligible for a free 30-minute consciousness advisor session, and she'll also offer free mini Reiki treatments for those who attend. Barbara is a certified yoga instructor, certified transcendental meditation instructor, certified consciousness advisor, and Reiki master. Give it up for Barbara.
So we started the day out right. We started the meeting out right by starting with silence. It's always a good idea to be more settled. And I know there's a teacher in Wasilla, and he's at the high school, and he says he has all of his students have a few minutes of silence at the beginning of class because they've been running around from class to class and busy with things, and he wants them to settle down so they can focus on their lessons. And it's called quiet time, and it's a technique that's used across the U.S. and around the world in different schools where they're providing meditation as a full program in other schools. So today we are talking about Ayurveda. Are some of you familiar with Ayurveda? Yes, I see a lot of people are. So I don't think it became more popular until the 80s or 90s in the US, and the whole system of Ayurveda comes from India, from the Vedic tradition, and that's what I'll be talking about today. So right now it's afternoon, and Ayurveda would say there's different times of the day that affect our routine and affect our physiology and such. So I drew a picture. Doesn't it look lovely? This is a clock, and Ayurveda is going to divide the day into different time zones, we would say. So this is 6 o'clock down here, and this is 10 a.m. or 10 p.m., and this is 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. So right now it's after 3 o'clock, so it looks like we are in this time zone right here. So from 10 to 2 is pitta time, and it doesn't matter if it's noon or midnight. Then we have this time zone, and we have this time. From 6 to 10 is kapha time. Doesn't matter if it's in the morning or at night. And this time is vata time, this afternoon. So according to this clock system, there's some basic principles behind it. And that's why they say, oh, go to bed early. What is it? Early, and then you rise early. Right. And so, if you go to bed before 10, you might notice it's easier to fall asleep. But if you stay up past 10, sometimes you get a second wind, because that's pitta time. And then there's other things we would say, like if it's noon, your body is ready to digest food, it's a good time to have your big lunch. And so there's principles beside the different time zones. And it's suggested that we exercise in the morning. So from 6 a.m. until 10 p.m. is kapha time. It's a good time to do our exercise. So there's some basic principles around the time of day. And as I said, right now we're in vata time, in case you wanted to know. There's also the seasons. We have summer, winter, fall, spring. And so summer is hotter and it's more pitta time. And winter and fall and spring have qualities of kapha and vata. So in the winter it's more dry, it's more associated with vata. So we're going to be talking about these and these basic principles, and I handed out a questionnaire that we're going to go over in a little while to everyone, but if you didn't get one, I'll give you more handouts. And so one of the principles I wanted to talk about that I think is important in Ayurveda is that there's 6 different tastes that we recognize: sweet, sour, salty, pungent, bitter, and astringent. And if you don't include all of those tastes in your daily meals, sometimes you feel like you have a craving, or sometimes you don't feel satisfied. It's been suggested that the American diet has too much sweet, sour, salty. And if you eat ethnic foods, I feel like they cover more tastes. So if you eat a typical Indian meal, they're going to have the lassi, they're going to have maybe a little salad, some vegetables, they're going to have the dal, they're going to have a variety of tastes. And I think it's the same way with Mexican or Thai. As far as I'm concerned, is there's lots of different tastes. And maybe some of our American diet has been too much like meat and carbohydrates, and maybe not enough vegetables, and maybe not beans or different tastes. So we're going to go over those different tastes. So we all know what sweet is, any kind of sugar, any kind of sweetener, but fruit can be sweet, and even meat and other things can be sweet. So we definitely have that taste covered in our diet. And what about sour? What do you think of some sour taste?
Pickles.
Yeah, there could be some sour pickles, and actually lemons are sour unless we add, sugar to our lemonade or something. So we are familiar with some sour tastes. Sweet, sour, salty, we're all familiar. Some people want to put more salt on their food. Some people don't, but we definitely get enough salt in the American diet, I think. So bitter. Maybe we're not eating enough leafy green vegetables and such. And astringent, maybe we're not eating enough beans to provide that quality. And pungent, that's our spicy kinds of food. So sweet could be fruit, it could be dairy, it could be dates, it could be a number of different things. Sour could be lemon, cheese. Salty could be our salty taste, which is on chips and nuts and other things in our food. But also seaweed and other things could be salty. Pungent would be something like chili, garlic, onions, ginger. And then bitter, again, greens like kale and such. And actually coffee is bitter unless you add sugar. And dark chocolate is bitter. And astringent is mostly beans, but it could be some vegetables, and it could be like a pomegranate. So there's a variety of foods that fall into these different categories. So that's just a brief introduction of the 6 different tastes. And with Ayurvedic cooking, they would make sure that with the spices and different vegetables and different variety of things that you cover all the 6 tastes. Maybe not always in one meal, but in your day in general. Last time I was here, there were some people that were here, and we did a marma exercise. And if you weren't here last time, I'm happy to go over that as an exercise that you can incorporate. And today I wanted to mention something about eye exercises. Last time we also did some chair exercises. After 30 minutes of sitting here, we were moving our head to the right and the left, and up and down, and rolling our shoulders, rolling our neck. We were doing some exercises because after you've been sitting for an hour, even a half hour, you should certainly do some kind of movement for your body, some stretches. But today I thought I'd do some eye exercises. So have any of you done eye exercises before with the Bates eye method? Some of you have heard of that or practiced it. Bates, B-A-T-E-S. So some people have said by practicing these exercises that they improve their eyesight, and some people have said they stopped wearing glasses. No matter what, I think it's beneficial and helpful. So with our eyes, we're going to look to the right, and we're going to look to the left. These are things we just normally don't do, because normally we're just staring out in front of us. Okay, so we're going to look up, and we're going to look down. So we're looking all the directions. We're going to look up at a diagonal, and down at a diagonal, and we're going to go on the other side, up at a diagonal, and down at a diagonal. Now we're going to roll the eyes all the way around in a circle. We're going to go one direction, and then we're going to go the other direction. So this is giving the eyes some movement, some flexibility, some fluidity. But there's also some things tied to your memory that are very helpful when you do these exercises. So have you ever looked at anyone, or have you ever thought, when you're trying to think of something, sometimes you look a certain way, you're trying to recall something, so there is an association with your memory, with the eye movements and such. And so we've looked up and down, we've looked to the right, and we've looked to the left. We've looked diagonal, the different directions. We've looked all the way around one direction, all the way around the other direction. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to look far away into the distance. And this is really good when you're outside, but still, look as far away as you can. And then we're going to look near, and you can look at your nose, and you can just look right close to you. And then you're going to look far away again, and near, and far, and near. And then we're just going to blink our eyes, because sometimes we need that kind of interruption for ourselves and for our eyes. So we're just going to blink. And then I'm going to tell you to stare. And this is something people would say, oh no, you shouldn't stare, that's not polite or whatever. But there's actually a good quality to it. So we're just going to stare, and you can just stare in front of you, or stare at a point, or a painting, or a picture, or anything. And you can do that for as long as you like, for a few seconds, or half a minute, just for a little bit. We're going to stare. And then our next exercise would be to look around the room. So as I said, normally we just look in front of us. But now I'm making my eyes move. I'm going to follow that line and go up the ceiling and down, and that chair and that painting, that corner, and I'm going to have my eyes move all around in different directions around the room. And this is very good for your eyes, your eyesight, and for just exercise in general. But again, these different movements are associated with memory and recall and different regions of the brain. So we're going to look all around us many different ways, follow the designs, the lines and such. And then another thing you can do, someone said they sat at the back of the plane and they would try to read the print up front. And maybe you can't, but they kept trying, and eventually they could read from the back of the plane. maybe you want to sit closer to that print, and then as you continue your exercise, maybe you want to move back. But I think at that point, someone's not going to be wearing their glasses anymore if they've improved their eyesight so much. So these are some eye exercises that I think you can incorporate into your daily routine. So sometimes you're waiting at a bank, you're in line at the post office or wherever, even at the grocery store you're standing in line. You can stand there and do some eye exercises. I don't think anyone's going to mind, and you're going to be doing some useful exercise in your time while you're waiting. So eye exercises is something I would recommend besides the chair exercises which we did last time, or the yoga or walking that we recommended. And also when we're talking about vata, pitta, kapha times of the day, we're talking about the principles in Ayurveda in general. So Ayur means life, and Veda means knowledge. So it's the knowledge of life that's been passed on from thousands of years from the Vedic tradition. And we said that there's an influence on the season, there's influence on the time of day, there's influence on you. And so there's these influences of the elements of the earth, air, water, fire, earth, water, ether. There's all these influences. And so pitta is more fire, and vata is more air, and kapha is more substance. So as far as your body type, you were born with a certain body type. Some people are more physical, more stout, more sturdy, and some people are more thin, and some people are more competitive. So vata is governed by air and ether, and so it would be typically a thin build. These are the people who are always thin, and it's hard for them to gain weight. In fact, when they want to gain weight, sometimes they get to eat things the rest of us don't get to eat. They get to eat, whipped cream and all kinds of goodies. Vata people are quick to learn material, but they also are quick to forget. They're enthusiastic and very vivacious as part of their personality, and they become cold easily. They don't like the cold weather. Pitta is governed by fire and water. So the traits would be for a typical pitta that you are more medium build. You have a balanced weight. You have a sharp intellect. Again, you're very goal-oriented and very competitive. But you become hot easily. So pitta has to be careful during the summer season because they don't like being too hot in 90 degrees or 100 degrees. And that's why maybe some pittas live in Alaska. So kapha is governed by earth and water, and it's again a sturdier build. Kapha has a tendency to gain weight. They're slow to learn the material, but once they learn the material, they don't forget it. They're sweet and even-tempered, so they're jolly and happy and even-tempered. And they don't like cold and damp weather. So why would we want to know our body type? Because it helps you balance yourself. And it helps you know about the seasons, the times of the day, what to eat, what to avoid, and such. And it goes beyond that. It goes into your personality and how you deal with others. Oh, if you know this person is a kapha, and you know that their decision making might be slower, they might be more methodical. You know, if this person is a vata, they might make their decision quickly. You'll know how to get along with other people in certain ways if you know about body types. So it could be in personal relationships. And if your husband has a hot temper, he may be more pitta, and so you can have some cooling things, make sure that he has his good lunch or something. So there's things you can do in relationships, in business, in life in general for yourself, and for others in terms of relationships. So to me, it kind of reminds me when I first read Men Are From Mars and Women Are From Venus. And I'll have to think of the author's name right now, but that made so much sense because that made me understand my dad. It made me understand my father more while he was quiet, and you know how women like to talk about their problems and such, and men don't. They want to go off and have some quiet time, be in their cave or solve it or whatever. So all these tips about body types and personalities and such can help all of us. So I did hand out a questionnaire to most people, and so you can find out through this questionnaire with the material that we just went over who did not get one. So what you're going to do is you're going to look at the questionnaire, and it's got three columns, and it says vata, pitta, and kapha. And so you're going to select, am I slender, am I medium built, or am I well built? And you can circle that. So that gives you a point for that particular type. And that's talking about your frame. And then it's talking about your metabolism. Is it fast? Is it medium? Or is it slow? So then you can circle one of those. And you can do this questionnaire now if you like and add up the points and kind of get an idea. Or you can do it later and play with it. And then as far as your appetite or eating, vata doesn't matter. You know, whether they skipped breakfast or they ate at 3 o'clock or ate at different times of the day. It's hard for them to set a routine. But pitta wants a routine. And they have to eat at lunch. They're hungry at lunch, at noontime, between 12 and 1 or whatever. They want to eat their lunch. And kapha is more steady, take it easy, take your time as far as appetite and easy eating. As we said earlier, vata is quick to learn, and they forget easily. Pitta, they're more efficient, more organized, more focused. And kapha is slow to learn, and then they remember stuff. This is good to know if you're a student. I actually had a class where the teacher had us do tests on what kind of learners we were. And usually in school they'll talk about whether you're a visual learner, or if you learn through hearing, or if you learn through doing. You know, so it's good to know all that, and then it's good to remember all these different approaches to learning. So someone who learned quickly, okay, if they're a vata, they could study the night before the test and do fine. But kapha, they would have to spend, days or weeks up till that test reviewing the material because they're slower to learn. So that's why I think it's helpful to know some of these things as a student. And then again, are you enthusiastic and vivacious as a vata type of person, or are you more competitive, goal-oriented, sharp intellect as a pitta, or are you more even-tempered as a kapha? These are just some general traits as far as vata, pitta, and kapha. And then we're influenced by our age. So when we were young, from birth until 20, we're all influenced by kapha. And then between 20 and 40, when we're more active in our lives, we're more influenced by pitta. And then when we're older, definitely after we're 60, we're more influenced by vata. So we're more influenced by dry qualities. And that could be, vata can be associated also with forgetfulness and such. So again, we're influenced by the time of the day, by the seasons, by the time of our lives, by what we eat, the qualities of the food. Many different things are influencing us as far as the Ayurvedic technique is concerned. Now, last time when we did the Marm technique practice, practice for yourself at home, we said you're going to learn how to take your pulse. So today everybody's going to learn how to take your pulse a little bit more. So we're using these 3 fingers, and I'm not using my thumb or my little finger. And for the ladies, I'm taking my right hand to my left wrist and placing my fingers there on my pulse. For the men, I'm taking my left hand, my fingers to my right wrist. And we said last time, we don't have to know anything about the pulse, but if you just put your fingers to the pulse, you'll find your pulse settles down. Maybe it's running a little fast, a little jumpy, and it settles down. And I enjoy doing this every day because it just settles my physiology. So again, you don't have to know anything. You don't have to be an Ayurvedic doctor trained to take the pulse. But the Ayurvedic doctor could tell you a lot of details about your health and imbalances by taking the pulse. Just like someone who studied Chinese medicine, acupuncture, etc., they take the pulse. So we are taking the pulse. Now when we did the MAHARISHI treatment, we said, oh, I'm going to take my pulse, and I'm going to rub the top of my head in 3 circles, and I'm going to rub my temples in 3 circles, and I'm going to do strokes along between my thumb, my fingers. I said that for the MAHARISHI treatment. And then I'm going to rub my heart, just gently using 3 circles and rest, quiet time in between each one, and then back to the pulse. So that's just a review of those basic steps we talked about as far as self-MAHARISHI treatment. Now we're taking the pulse, and I'm going to say, these 3 fingers represent vata, pitta, and kapha. And vata should have a snake-like quality, it's moving fast. Pitta should have a quality like a frog, it's jumping. And kapha should have, we call it like a swan, easy going, very gliding movement. So what happens is that an Ayurvedic doctor could take your pulse and he could tell you, oh, you're a vata pitta, because you're mostly one type, or you could be a mixture of all 3, but then we're also predominantly one and then secondary something else. So let's say I'm pitta kapha. So maybe I would feel my pitta, my middle finger is more strong in the pulse, and then I would feel the kapha. If I feel something else stronger than the pitta or kapha, that means something else is out of balance. So that's a little bit about taking your pulse, man or lady, vata, pitta, or kapha, the snake, the frog, or the swan. Yes.
So if you know you're predominantly one, are you saying that's the pulse that should be showing up if you're in balance?
More likely. Something else could come up that throws you out of balance. But again, these are just some general principles about taking your pulse. And even if you're not noticing the pulse, etc., it just helps. Just put your attention on the pulse and let it go back to its own natural rhythm. Again, the Ayurvedic doctor would read across the finger and through 3 different layers also. Very sensitive as they've done their training. So there are courses in how to take the pulse for beginners and then for advanced people and for anyone in the medical field, whether you're a chiropractor or a doctor. And there are clinics in the US and doctors who have trained with Ayurveda. And I have had the Ayurvedic doctors come up here before and give consultations and recommendations. Anytime you're traveling, it's something you might want to think about. Or anyone you know who, a holistic practitioner, maybe they want to train. So a little bit about vata, pitta, kapha, taking our pulse. The other thing I have, and I don't have enough handouts for everyone, this has some more notes, and I said I'll explain some of the terminology. And it's 2-sided. So maybe you can share it with your neighbor. And I can always make more copies if anyone really wants them.
I can read that.
So again, on this handout, it's also listing vata, pitta, and kapha and the qualities, but it's going into some of the terminology. So all of these terms are like Sanskrit terms, that's why we're unfamiliar with some of these terms. But we talked about the traits of vata, pitta, and kapha, the different body types. We've talked about the 6 tastes a little bit. And our seasonal routines can change a little bit with summer, winter, and fall and such. So if you're pitta, you have to be more careful with your routine and such in the summer. If you're kapha, you're more likely to get a cold or flu in spring or fall. So if you saw an Ayurvedic doctor, they would recommend meditation, diet, daily routine, exercise, herbs, massage. And so last time we talked a little bit about aromatherapy, that lavender is very soothing, sandalwood is also very soothing, eucalyptus, peppermint are more pepping up the system. We talked a little bit about Ghandarva Veda music, classical Indian music, helps plants grow, helps students get better grades. And the Ghandarva Veda music, the classical Indian music, would have the sitar, the flute, the tabla, traditional Indian instruments. And they would have different melodies for the morning, different melodies for the afternoon, different melodies for the evening. And you can get tapes, CDs, etc. You can go online and play the different music if you like to have some balancing influence in your home. Aromatherapy is the points in your body, just like in acupuncture, acupressure, all these different systems are looking at general points that connect in your body. And there's general points that connect, but then there's like 108 different points on the body that you want to balance. And we were just talking about self-warmer treatment you could do at home that's very balancing. There's also light and gem therapy, Vedic sound therapy, meditation, yoga asanas. Last time we didn't get down and roll around on the floor or stretch, but we said you could do some stretches in your chair or even when you're standing. And breathing techniques. Last time I think we just talked about deep breathing, like inhaling slowly and deeply through the nose and exhaling through the mouth, like slowly and deeply. I don't think we as much mentioned pranayama, which you might have learned in a yoga class. So it's alternate nostril breathing. We're inhaling through the left and out the right. Inhaling on the right and out the left. So this is a practice you can do it at home very easily, no effort, no harshness to it, just very gentle and easy. And just a few minutes before meditation every day, or whenever you like in your daily routine. But it actually helps settle the physiology and has an effect. There's research showing the benefits, just like there's research showing the benefits of yoga, postures and such. So we could do pranayama. Panchakharma is the detox treatments that you would do as the Ayurvedic doctor recommends, or that you can do at a clinic. So if you wanted to do a week-long program, you would go see the doctor first day, and then he would make recommendations, and then each day you would come in for a different type of massage or steam treatment with herbs, or what we call a basti, which would be like an enema. Some people are familiar with coffee enemas and different types of enemas. The Ayurveda system uses herbs for the enemas, very gentle. And we're trying to cleanse the toxins out of the body. Just like we said last time, we're going to drink some hot water during the day, just sips here and there, help cleanse the system. So in the same way, we can use herbs and massage and different treatments to cleanse and detox the body. A yagya is when you have Vedic pundits chant for you, to do a ceremony for you, to clear up any obstacles in your life, to make your life smoother. So you can have your Jyotish done, your Eastern astrology chart done, and you can have Vedic pundits chant some beautiful ceremonies for you. So yagas can be done for the environment, to bring on rain when you have a drought. They can be done to help create world peace, which we all need in the world today. Swedna is the steam treatment. So you would lie on a table and there would be steam coming up, but it would have certain herbs in it. So just like a steam treatment. And when you do your aromatherapy at home, you can do the same kind of thing similarly. You can heat up some hot water, put a few drops of some herb, some aroma oil in a pot, and then you can inhale that steam. It's very soothing and balancing, or if it's like eucalyptus or something, it can clear up your sinus and such. So again, a doctor would do a diagnosis when they see you. They would recommend abhyanga, the general massage treatment, which we said you can do at home, long on your limbs and circular on your joints. So I'm heating up some oil in the morning and I'm giving myself a massage on my arms and legs, on my feet, on my head, and then I'm having my warm shower or bath to let the oil, whether it's sesame oil or coconut oil, seep into the system. So we recommend that you do your own massage every day, but if you can have an Ayurvedic technician give you a massage, that's even better. And the deluxe treatment would have two people working on you. One person on the right, one person on the left, one person on this arm, one person on that arm. Very wonderful treatment. Nausea is when we put some drops in the nose, so maybe you have some sinus congestion and such. So there's some herbs they would have in some oil that you could have in drops in the nose. And the basti, as I said, is like an enema, and shurna. So, as I said, there's these three different types. We're going to say vata, pitta, and kapha. So there's these spices that you should favor for you, for the season, for your type, which are vata, pitta, and kapha. And so I'm going to pass these around if you want to look at them. But there's charts about them, about which spices to favor for you. And then there's also teas, vata, pitta, and kapha teas. So again, you can order Ayurveda products or make your own teas and find they're very soothing and enjoy the different herbal teas. Last time I was here, I said you can also scrape your tongue in the morning as part of your routine. So I brought my tongue scraper if you don't know what one looks like. And you can scrape your tongue in the morning to get rid of toxins. If the tongue gets coated. And an Ayurvedic doctor would look at your tongue, look at your eyes, take your pulse. There's many ways they can assess imbalances and such. And they can look at your nails and such to determine imbalances. And these are like what they would call raw silk gloves. They're for garshana, for your own dry massage at home. Just like some people have that loofah or natural bristle brush. You can put these on like little gloves and give yourself a little dry massage in the morning. It's supposed to be good for the dryness of the skin. So there's some benefits to garshana, dry massage. I'm just going to pass this around if anybody wants to look at the sample. So I also mentioned vastu architecture last time, which is again from the Vedic tradition in India. And they would say that you should have your entrance to your home or your business from the east. Right now I am facing east, and the church has the entrance to the east. So that's very auspicious to gain the sunlight and energy in the morning. So I suggested last time that when you're meditating at home, you could face east. And when students are studying, when you're doing work, if you face east, they did a study on students facing east, they solved problems faster than someone facing another direction. East is the best, north is good too, but south is not so good, and there's not as good an influence from west. But Vastu architecture looks at how we should plan our cities, that we should have clean air, good water, we should have beautiful parks and fountains, which most cities do, but there's a lot more we could improve, I think. And there are Vastu communities around the world where they have built with these ideas. And it's like building a green home. Never use any toxic materials in building your home, because we found out in the past that can be problematic for people. And
So is that word, that term on this sheet?
Vastu,
How do you spell
V-A-S-T-U. It's easier than Veda, which is its traditional name. So Vastu architecture or Eastern. So we would like to have our cities and communities have these qualities. Yes.
So I don't know where I read it, but I thought somewhere I had picked up that your bed orientation should be east-west is preferred over north-south. Do they want
Right.
your head in the east?
Yes. You can have your head is on the pillow and it's facing east or south, but not north, because the north is magnetic.
Well, I just
So
thought
it
you
is
said from architecture that north was an okay.
from architecture, but your bed, this is talking about your
Oh,
bed
yeah.
placement. So if I was to draw a picture of our home here, we have this square here. I would say they would say the kitchen is supposed to be in the southeast. The master bedroom should be over here. The meditation room should be over there. So we got the kitchen and the dining room here. We got the guest bedroom over here. They have proportions and directions according to building your home. So it's quite interesting. But one of the buildings at MAHARISHI International University in Fairfield, Iowa, won a top award, and I would say it's for green buildings, etc. But the building was built with thick walls, and they have a lot of skylights, and they have solar panels, and they produce more energy than they consume. There's also a community there which is off the grid, so that means they have solar panels, they have a windmill, they have organic gardens, they have a rain catch system, all these things that you could think of. I've toured some homes with ideas of these types of architecture, whether they had an earth floor or whether they had wool carpet or cotton or what. Oh, they used bales, hay bales for insulation, all kinds of natural materials. You don't have to go way out of your way, but you can be concerned about, we don't want the paint to be toxic, we don't want the glue to be toxic, etc. So some really good ideas, I think, with Vastu architecture.
What was that location of the
Fairfield, Iowa, and there are there's a community in Austin, Texas. There's communities in Europe. Anyone can build their home with their architect and the advice of the Vastu architecture principles. But still, there's lots of things we can do, in our own home and in our own personal life to enhance our well-being. So all of these are some of the suggestions. So again, I'm going to go over some more of the terms in a minute. When we were talking about the different body types, you can identify with this. This would be a vata type. When stressed, I tend to feel worried and anxious. And that's most problematic, one of the most problematic things for vata types. When stressed, I tend to feel irritated, angry, or aggressive. That's a pitta type. My mood is usually stable and nurturing, but when stressed, I feel kapha types can tend to feel depressed or lethargic. Okay. So for motivation, this is a vata type. I find it challenging to stick with projects, especially when I feel emotionally worried or doubtful. So a vata type, if you have a vata type at work, they're going to jump from project to project. You need a kapha type who's going to stick with it, and you need a pitta type who's really going to, be motivated to get this project done. So there's some good qualities to each type. Pitta types, I tend to be demanding and perfectionist and get stressed when things don't go my way. Kapha, when under stress, I find myself turning to comfort food. So again, the kapha people tend to be a little bit overweight. Vata type, I am fun-loving and vivacious. I love change and variety, and I tend to be very creative. And we need those creative people. We need those creative qualities. Pitta, I am ambitious, focused, goal-oriented, and find it challenging to relax and go with the flow. And then the kapha type, I am easygoing by nature, and others often turn to me for emotional support and comfort. So again, good qualities to all of us when we're in balance, but when we're out of balance, we're going to feel a little more worried, or a little more anxious, or a little more angry, or we're going to gain weight, or we're going to get a cold or flu. When I first started meditating, I found that I didn't get colds and flus that went around seasonally. You build up resistance to disease. I also found that as a child I had 2 nightmares, and they went away when I started meditating. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but I was already a good student, and so I wasn't concerned about my grades. But when I started meditating, I was already doing well in literature and arts and music and such that I liked, but I didn't really care for science and math and history. But when I started meditating, it made me feel more well-rounded, and it made me feel like I could do those things and do better at them, even though I would not choose to major in that particular area or choose that for my career. And I found this for other people, that someone might be very intellectual, and then when they start meditating, their personality rounds out. So that's why I find meditation is very helpful. And so today we've gone over a little bit about the time of the day, the season, a little bit about vata, pitta, and kapha types, the 6 tastes. We've done some eye exercises. We've talked about the pulse, the swan, the frog, the snake. We've been talking about some terms. I'm going to go over some more of those terms. We've talked about how you can do the pranayama at home. We talked about facing east, how that has a significance in your activity. And another thing you can do as far as part of your routine that Ayurveda would recommend is you can gargle with sesame oil in the morning. Maybe you heat up some water and heat up some oil, and you have just a little paper cup and you just swish it around in your mouth. They found that if you gargle with some of these oils, particularly sesame oil, will help your gums. So anytime you tend to have some kind of gum disease or something, you can just rub the oil on your gums, gargle with water, and you'll have a good effect. So even I know someone's doctor who was not even trained with Ayurveda. He recommended that she do that for her gums, and she did that for several weeks, and it helped. So all these little tips from our elders, from our ancestors, from our cultures can help. Again, we would recommend you eat organic food. At the university in Fairfield, Iowa, the MAHARISHI International University, you can get a bachelor's degree, a PhD, all kinds of degrees, but everyone meditates, and the food in the cafeteria is all organic. It's grown in the student gardens. So I don't think very many student cafeterias can say that their food is all organic, which I think is wonderful, but we don't want GMOs, genetically modified food. It's not good for you. And we don't want pesticides, such, so we have to do what we can so that the U.S. will be more conscious about that and label foods. We've talked a little bit about music. I was going to maybe play a short excerpt. Anybody already familiar with Indian music or sitar and tabla and such? You can get these little apps on your phone, and then you can play the music during the day.
What's the name of the app you have? Is it a free one or a paid one?
It's like $2.99 or $3.99 or $4.99 a month or something like that.
What's the name of it?
Well, it's Ghandarva.
Can you speak up, please?
Oh, it's Ghandarva Veda music. Ghandarva music.
Spell it, please.
Gandharva. Ghandarva. And I think it should be listed on your sheet. Ghandarva Veda music.
Oh, yes it is.
But again, they have flute music and sitar and sarod and different types of music, so you can find out if you like that type of music and want to play that type of music. I drew another picture for you. And this is a picture of an ocean. You can see waves on the surface and a quiet depth. We're going to make a comparison that our mind has an active surface level and it has a very quiet depth. So I'm going to make a comparison that our mind is like an ocean. And then in this picture, I'm going to show you how a bubble is rising from the bottom of the ocean going to the top. And we perceive it on the top. And we're making this comparison to our mind that a thought is very abstract and then it becomes more concrete on the surface level. And they say that we're only using 5 to 10% of our potential, which is not enough. And so we want to expand our potential, and geniuses like Einstein, only 30%. So we use this analogy when we talk about transcendental meditation, that we want to have a mantra that helps the mind settle down and transcend. And we call this the source of our creativity, the source of our intelligence, a state of restful alertness, because when we meditate, we get rest to the body, and that's how we get rid of stress. And scientifically, they would talk about the unified field and consciousness. We can describe our experience physiologically or from a scientific viewpoint many different ways. And then when we get rest to the body can get rid of stress, because stress is like knots in the nervous system. And when we get rid of the stress in the mind becomes more active because they're connected and the mind has thoughts. So there's a whole process going on as you meditate. And we talk about those mechanics when we teach someone transcendental meditation. But we use this diagram to help you understand how the mind thinks. The mind doesn't think just randomly. It's always looking for something more interesting, more charming. Thought is more interesting, more charming at these finer levels, at the source of our creativity. And so the TM technique is based on naturalness, effectiveness. It's like nature. If a light beam is traveling through air, through water, it will take the shortest path to reach its goal. We want to emulate nature, the intelligence of nature. We want to follow the laws of nature. We want to be in tune with the laws of nature. And that's why we meditate, and that's why we practice so many different techniques to stay in balance and get rid of stress in the physiology, balance ourselves, start using more of our creativity, more of our intelligence, more of our potential. Because they have found through studies that people who meditated 6 months or longer could improve their IQ score. And people over the age of 55 who meditated 5 years or more would go to the doctor less often, hospital less often. There's less chance for heart disease and heart attack, etc. So that's why we always recommend meditation for any of our programs. So in the continuing discussion here on your handouts, I just mentioned something about panchakharma is the detox programs that we offer and Ayurveda offers, and then agni is about your digestion. It's very important for you to have a good digestion, otherwise you can't assimilate your food properly. So there's an emphasis on having good digestion. And then last time I mentioned some courses that are available, like Super Purpose by Janet Atwood, a best-selling author known for the Passion Test. So now you have it in writing if anyone was interested in that particular topic. Or Super Habits with Heather Evans, the top coach in the US, with Miriam Lodge and Dr. Keith Wallace and Ted Wallace, who are also well known in their fields. So when you want to change habits, sometimes you need some tips and a buddy and some accountability. And then Super Relationships with Dr. Vicki Broom, a psychologist. And also I mentioned last time, and there's books about and courses out about these different topics. And I mentioned that Dr. Tony Nader wrote this best-selling book, Consciousness is All There Is, looking at different scientists and theories and philosophers throughout the ages, whether it was Galileo or Newton, or Einstein, and then up until today, where we feel that consciousness is everything. If you don't have consciousness or awareness, you are not effective in your own life. So it's really important to have our awareness, have our focus, have our clarity that we can gain through different techniques of meditation and breathing and such. And we mentioned a little bit about Ayurveda time and the doshas, vata, pitta, and kapha today. And now they're having specific courses. Usually they're on a Saturday and on Zoom with different doctors. So there's a specific course just for heart health by Dr. Cesar Molina. And there's one for emotional wellness by Dr. Vicki Broom. One just for ADHD. If people have a problem with ADHD, there are certain recommendations by certain doctors. Or if you have diabetes, there's certain recommendations you can follow. Also, Dr. Norman Rosenthal talks about depression. I think it was him or Fred Travis that came up with the idea about SAD. They lived in one country where they always had sunshine, and then they moved somewhere else to go to school or work, and then they found there wasn't as much sunshine, and they were feeling the effects, and they studied it and came up with recommendations, and that's what people are very familiar with that idea today, especially in Alaska in the shorter winter days and the light that we need because we're not getting enough light from the sun and energy. There's a course just for anxiety, for cancer recommendations, Dr. Nancy Lonsdorf is now specializing. She used to specialize in women's health, like if you have problems with menopause or your periods and such, she would make recommendations. She had a whole book out about women's health and mothers and babies and how you can give your baby a massage. But now she's specializing in people who are over 55, 60, 65, when we feel like we're more forgetful and concerned about our health. We don't want to have Alzheimer's and dementia and such. So she and some other doctors have developed a program, and I think there's a little testing that goes on, and then a lot of recommendations with herbs and vitamins and a lot of things that you can do if you're concerned about your cognitive health. So again, there's a course just for positive parenting. Parents are concerned about how to deal with their kids. For dental health, I'm really looking forward to this course. It's going to come out in March by Dr. Michael Olmstead. And so I know some tips that we can do for our dental health, but I'd like to find out about more that we can do from the Ayurveda perspective. And there's suggestions for sleep from Dr. Charlotte Beck. You know, like at night you need to play some relaxing music or take a hot bath or drink some warm tea, or don't have too much stimuli if you're trying to go to bed. And there's a course that's going to come out about grief. I've used meditation for many families who have lost a child or someone in the family, and they found meditation helps so much with that process of grief. But I'm sure counselors and psychologists could tell us a lot more and give us a lot more tips about grief. So there is a course about grief. I wanted to ask if there were more questions. I think I covered most of the points that I wanted to cover today about Ayurveda and health and meditation. Yes?
What is a cabbage rose? Do cabbage, when they grow, do they have a little flower that comes up first, and that's the rose? Or
You
what?
saw it mentioned there in what?
What?
You saw it mentioned there?
On your organic sweet pita tea?
Oh.
Cabbage rose, never heard of it.
Uh-huh.
Never grown a cabbage either.
Well, they do recommend rose petals, and there is like a rose oil and some different rose products. There's rose jam too. So I think they're talking about more about the rose aspect than the cabbage aspect.
Oh, thank you. That makes sense.
So regarding this list you provided for us, is this under a particular website, and then you're signing up for these individual
You can have.
courses, or
I'm offering people a free consciousness advisor session for 30 minutes, free. And then I can recommend some of those different experts, and then I can refer you to a website where you can sign up for the different courses and such. There is a website just for, it's called oneconsciousness.org. There is another website just for the vastu architecture. There's another website just for Ayurveda. There's another website just for Ghandarva Veda music. So there's lots of different websites that are available, but they all probably intertwine a bit. And so I was offering everybody a free consciousness advisor consultation. And since I'm a Reiki master also, I was offering everybody a mini Reiki treatment. And if we do a circle today, which we will do in just a little bit before we end, I was going to say I could go around the circle. Anyone else here a Reiki master? Last time there was someone here. Anyone who wants to stay in the circle, we can go around and give you just a mini Reiki treatment at the end of the circle, if that's okay with people.
The question, Ayurvedic diet, are there some specialties where it's just vegetarian?
They're still going to say for some people meat is okay, and they're going to favor chicken and fish over meat, but still some people need that kind of protein. So ideally we would all be vegetarians, but it's not going to happen. You know, and it could happen in our climate, and it could happen because of our culture. Many, many different factors. I was telling someone I went to Alaskan potluck, and you could only bring blueberries or cranberries if you picked them, or you made them into jam or jelly or whatever. You could only bring fish if you caught it, or you grew your vegetables in your garden, or you went out and shot a moose, or whatever you. Well, that's local eating, isn't it? Yeah, that's not eating from the store. I had one girlfriend who grew up in Alaska, and she had never gone to a store and bought anything other than what they ate at home, and they grew at home in their garden. She wasn't used to buying things in the store. They ate out of their freezer and out of what they had in Alaska. I think that's interesting. So I think I'm going to conclude this talk, and I thank you all for attending, and I'm happy to meet with you and answer any of your questions, and I hope some of these tips and some of this information was helpful to you.
Thank you.
And yes, that there are different recommendations as far as the diet, what to favor and avoid if you're this type of body type, or it's this season, or you have this imbalance.
So did you have a sign-up sheet if one wanted to follow up with the 30-minute
Yeah, you can do that.
thing?
Yeah.
Because this paper? Oh, to contact you later?
Well,
Is that how you would prefer us to do that? I see it. Here's all your information.
You can just, thank you. You can just sign up on here and give me your name, phone number, and I'll get in contact with you.